Hello friends, we are going to deal with the pioneer of Indian poetry in English, Nissim Ezekiel, who was born in 1924 and who died in 2004. First, we will see the historical and literary context. We will look at the life of Nissim Ezekiel briefly and then discuss two poems, Philosophy, Poet, Lover and Birdwatcher in detail. Just to get an idea of Nissim Ezekiel's life, we will also start our discussion by reading background casually. When we come to the historical and literary context, it is our own country. You can see that we got independence in 1947. We have to understand further that ours is a multicultural country with Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Sikh, Jewish and other kinds of religious followings. It is also a multilingual country with hundreds of languages, both official and unofficial, tribal, marginal and mainstream languages. Ours is an ancient country with a glorious literary tradition in several languages, but we have used English as a link language for our whole country. Paradoxically, English took roots in India after the English people had left the country. Some displaced and deprived people followed English as their own language. We have two examples, Nissim Ezekiel and Dom Morris, who did not have any other language to express themselves creatively. That is why they chose English. We have large number of educated Indians who attempted to embrace English for creative purposes, not only poetry, we have short story, fiction, memoir, testimony, various other accounts in English. Let us deal with the pioneer of modern Indian poetry in English, that is Nissim Ezekiel now. He pursued poetry and philosophy in India and England passionately. He studied philosophy in England and he started writing poetry in England and also in India. He acquired industrial and academic experience. He became a professor of English at the University of Bombay. Before that, he had some industrial experience in the sense he was working as a journalist, he was working in advertising and things like that. He was devoted to poetry in English, edited poetry magazines like Quest, Imprint, Poetry India and the Indian Pen. He wrote traditional, experimental, modernist, secular and religious poems. He also received Sahitya Academy Award in 1983 and a Padma Shri Award in 1988. He is widely appreciated for his volumes The Unfinished Man, The Exact Name, Hymns in Darkness, Latter-day Psalms and other volumes. We have three poems here. First, we will read background casually. It is a 17-line poem in 15 stanzas. It is an ironical and self-deprecatory portrait of the poet himself. Then we will read two poems, Philosophy and Poet, Lover, Birdwatcher. Philosophy is published in the volume The Exact Name, 1965. It is a 20-line and 4-stanza poem. It deals with the scientific and artistic approaches to seeking knowledge. The second poem, Poet, Lover, Birdwatcher, for our discussion was also published in The Exact Name. It is a 20-line and 2-stanza poem. It shows the linkages between writing poetry, loving a woman and watching a bird as acts of waiting for the right word, the right person and bird to come by. Let us read some extracts from background casually to understand the personality of Nissim Ezekiel. A poet rascal clown was born, the frightened child who would not eat or sleep, a boy of meagre bone. He never learned to fly a kite, his borrowed top refused to spin. 22, time to go abroad, first the decision, then a friend to pay the fare. Philosophy, poverty and poetry, three companions shared my basement room. The London seasons passed me by, I lay in bed 2 years alone, and then a woman came to tell my willing ears I was a son of man. I knew that I had failed. The song of my experience sung, I knew that all was yet to sing. My ancestors among the castes were aliens crushing seed for bread. The hooded bullock made his rounds. The Indian landscape sears my eyes. I have become a part of it to be observed by foreigners. They say that I am singular, their letters overstate the case. I have made my commitments now. This is one to stay where I am, as others choose to give themselves in some remote and backward place. My backward place is where I am. Thus, Nissim Ezekiel identified himself with India, with the Bombay that he lived in. Now let us see the first poem for our discussion, Philosophy. There is a place to which I often go, not by planning to, but by a flow away from all existence to a cold lucidity, whose will is uncontrolled. Here the mills of God are never slow. The landscape in its geological prime dissolves to show its quintessential slime. A million stars are blotted out. I think of each historic passion as a blink that happened to the sad eye of time. But residues of meaning still remain, as darkest myths meander through the pain towards a final formula of light. I too reject this clarity of sight. What cannot be explained, do not explain. The mundane language of the senses sings its own interpretations. Common things become, by virtue of their commonness, an argument against the nakedness that dies of cold to find the truth it brings. Now let us see the thematic contrast that we have in this poem between flow and stasis, lucidity and obscurity, uncontrolled and planned, and controlled and planned, time and eternity, sad and happy, light and dark, interpretations and misinterpretations, common and uncommon, life, death, truth, falsehood, argument, reasoning, and statement and feeling. If you look at the poem, you can see these kinds of contrasts which interact with each other to give a philosophy of life. A number of poetic devices operate in this poem to build the thrust of the contrast between life and death, between one approach to life and another approach to life or to knowledge. We have personification in lucidity and time. We have a metaphor in the landscape in its geological prime dissolves to show its quintessential slime. Another metaphor in but residues of meaning still remain, as darkest myths meander through the pain. We also have assonance in residues and meaning still remain. Then we have alliteration and assonance in towards a final formula of light. This assonance you can see in I highlighted there and alliteration in F underlined. Then we have a pithy saying, something like an epigram. It may be a trite expression, but it is succinctly put. What cannot be explained, do not explain. Alliteration in the language of the senses sings. Then a metaphor in the mundane language of the senses sings its own interpretations. Language sings its own interpretations. Then we have a metaphor in an argument against the nakedness that dies of cold to find the truth it brings. Along with these poetic devices, we have some rhyme, rhythm and meter in this poem. The rhyme is consistently AA, BBA in every stanza. Then the rhythm is predominantly iambic. It has 10 syllables in each line. The meter is iambic pentameter, as every line has almost 5 feet. Then we also have caesura, enjambment and in-stopped lines. But residues of meaning still remain, as darkest myths meander through the pain towards a final formula of light. I too reject this clarity of sight. We have predominantly iambic pentameter. We have underlined all those places where we have the stress, like re, dar, to. To give an overall impression of this poem, let us look at these points that we have listed here. Philosophy is about all kinds of knowledge, not just the logical and scientific knowledge alone. Hence, the speaker presents different approaches to various forms of organized and unorganized knowledge, that is experience. The speaker prefers residues of meaning after the dissolution of the geological processes and rejects clarity and lucidity as advanced by science and logic. He also exposes the limits of language through which knowledge is articulated and recorded. All false knowledge will vanish in front of the real truth, which finds expression in poetry through metaphor, rhyme, rhythm and meter. Now let us come to the second poem, Poet, Lover, Birdwatcher. This is again one of the most anthologized poems of Nissim Ezekiel. To force the pace and never to be still is not the way of those who study birds or women. The best poets wait for words. The hunt is not an exercise of will, but patient love relaxing on a hill to note the movement of a timid wing, until the one who knows that she is loved no longer waits but risks surrendering. In this the poet finds his moral proved, who never spoke before his spirit moved. The slow movement seems somehow to say much more. To watch the rare birds you have to go along deserted lanes and where the rivers flow in silence near the source, or by a shore remote and thorny like the heart's dark floor. And there the women slowly turn around, not only flesh and bone but myths of light with the darkness at the core, and sense is found but poets lost in crooked restless flight. The deaf can hear, the blind recover sight. It is a beautiful poem. We could see the flow in the reading of our poem itself. We have the thematic contrast between motion and stillness, free will and fate, patience and impatience, love, life and hate and death, body and spirit, silence which is visual, sound and speech which is auditory, light and dark, myth, imagination, reality and truth, crooked and straight, restless and restful. We have the theme of imagination, of love, of nature, and we have this correspondence between various activities in this poem. That is why we have this kind of contrast and the communication of the idea of writing of a poem by observation. The poetic devices we see in this poem are listed here. First, we have a metaphor in the title itself, poet, lover and bird. All of them deal with the flight of imagination. Alliteration we have in or women, the best poets wait for words. Women wait words. That is where we have this alliteration. Then we have consonants and assonance. Movement of a timid wing, and then movement mid. In that we have this consonants. Next we have this metaphor. The hunt is not an exercise of will, but patient love relaxing on a hill to note the movement of a timid wing. Next we have alliterations. Poet finds his moral proved, spoke before his spirit moved. The slow movement seems somehow to say much more. It is one of the longest lines that we have in this poem. The slow movement seems, caesura we have to break the speed, somehow again break to say much more. And lengthening the line means slowing down the speech or slowing down the sound. Similarly, we have in remote and thorny like the heart's dark floor. We have the paradox of myths of light with darkness at the core in line 17 and 18. Then we have a metaphor in but poets lost in crooked restless flight. Lastly, we have the paradox, the deaf can hear, the blind recover sight. This is all about the problem of communication in life, especially so in poetry. Philosophically or scientifically, we have the same problem everywhere. How can the deaf hear? How can the blind recover sight? We always try the impossible. Now let us see the rhyme, rhythm and meter in this poem. The poetic form is regular meter we have. We have two 10-line stanzas. The rhyme is possible because of the regular end rhyme in almost all lines with some exceptions. We have the rhyming words like still, birds, words, will, hill, wing, loud, surrendering, proved, moved, more, go, flow, show, floor, around, light, first, flight, sight, and the highlighted words proved, moved, flight and sight that come at the end of the stanzas are couplets. The rhythm of the poem is mostly iambic with an extra syllable in some lines. Let us see the iambic pentameter in the first 3 lines we have here. To force the pace and never to be still is not the way of those who study birds or women. The best poets wait for words. If we read it a little carefully, we can, without the line split, we can read it easier. Let us see the overall impression we have here. This poem clearly depicts the process of writing a poem as an analogous process of waiting for a beloved as a lover or a bird as a bird watcher. The best poets wait for words because that is the best way to catch their prey when their spirit moves. The poet has to undertake an arduous journey across difficult terrains to the source of life, love, light, that is death, the dark core, to catch a glimpse of rare words, women and rare birds. In the stationary flight, it is oxymoronic. In the stationary flight, as a poet waits, he can hear the unheard and see the invisible, like Keats in O.T. Nightingale. The slow movement to the still source comes alive through the long line in 11, with alliterations and assonances throughout the poem, with an intricate pattern of images taking birth as a beautiful poem. Let us see the summary. We have looked at the historical and literary context of Nissim Ezekiel, who became the pioneer of English poetry in India by writing a number of poems, dedicating himself to poetry in English. It is almost like a sage like life, entire life he dedicated for this. That is why he is considered to be, some critics call him the father of Indian poetry in English. We read background casually to understand his own personality, and then looked at philosophy, poet lover, birdwatcher to understand the nuances of his own writing. He has a line called "Home is where we have to gather grace" in a poem Enterprise. Language is a home for a poet like Nissim Ezekiel. The geographical location Bombay did not make him feel belonging to that land. Somehow mentally he just consoled himself that he belonged to the land. This kind of disturbance in him, unsettled feeling, alienated feeling, that is what we find in the modernist poems of Nissim Ezekiel. We have some references here. Hope you will be able to get them, read them, understand Nissim Ezekiel much better. Thank you.